As we said, a grand jury is investigating that Rhode Island nightclub fire that killed 97 people last week. While no one has been officially charged, a class action lawsuit on behalf of the dead and injured is in the works. Attorney Kenneth Moll is expected to file that lawsuit. He's with us this morning. Mr. Moll, good morning.
Good morning, Renee.
Why a class action lawsuit? Why not individual suits in this case?
Well, we believe that during the investigation that there may be a limited amount of funds available for the victims, and by having a class action, it prevents one family or victim from receiving the compensation or the fund or depleting the fund. And this way we can make sure there's a fair split of the funds with all the families.
If folks join in the class action suit, do they then give up their rights to file individually, or can they still do that?
They could still do that. And you know, we were contacted by victims and their families to conduct a full investigation into the allegations in this fire. If there are limited funds available, we do so. Our firm or other firms that are involved do not want to take one penny away from the victims' families, but to conduct a thorough and complete investigation, not only against the club owners and the band and the promoter and the manager, but also against the manufacturer of the material used in the nightclub for the soundproofing, the contractor that elected to use that type of material, the pyrotechnics manufacturer, and the city itself for what we believe was a failed inspection.
So your investigation will be coupled with what authorities come up with, and that will be the basis of your lawsuit, I'm assuming? Well,
we're investigating. We want to expose the facts, expose the negligent acts that occurred in the hopes that this doesn't happen again. We want to get to the bottom of who was at fault here, because this was a horrific tragedy that was preventable.
The band, Great White, the club owners, the Dadarian brothers, each blaming one another. Is that going to have an impact in your class action lawsuit?
If anything, it's going to show that there were multiple negligent acts that occurred to lead up to the events that led up to the tragedy last week. I mean, the material that was used was wrong. The owners knew that pyrotechnics were being used. The band knew that they were using pyrotechnics. And there's a lot of people not watching after the safety of the patrons that were in the nightclub that night.
Why are you getting involved? I mean, this seems just a little bit premature in the fact that the investigation is ongoing.
Well, the victims' families need to be represented during this time of the investigation. We were contacted by families out there due to the fact that our firm is known for doing high exposure type class actions. We've made it very clear from the very beginning that if there is a limited fund, we don't want to take one penny away from the families, but we do believe that the families need to be represented during this time and during this investigation.
So you're willing to forego your compensation if, in fact, it turns out there's not enough money to, as you say, to compensate the victims of this crime?
Absolutely.
This fire?
Absolutely. That's not our concern at this point. Our concern at this point is that the families are represented during this investigation. There's nobody representing the families during the investigation at this time. And the very authorities that are conducting the investigation are the very people we're looking at.
All right, Mr. Moll, thank you.
Thank you.
This is The Early Show on CBS.